Sometimes, the world's biggest battles aren't fought with weapons, but with whispers, offers, and promises made behind closed doors. In the middle of the icy silence of the Arctic, a quiet storm is brewing, and its name is Greenland. At first glance, it may seem like just a frozen land, distant and forgotten. But today, powerful nations, America and Europe, are watching it like hawks circling their prey. Why? Because in Greenland's melting ice, they see opportunity. They see power. They see control. Sometimes, it's the places we rarely hear about that hold the greatest value. Places that don't scream for attention, but quietly sit in their corner of the world. But silently, it has become one of the most watched, most contested, and most important pieces of land on this planet. Why? Because Greenland is more than just ice and snow. Beneath that frozen surface lies something more powerful than we can imagine. And the world knows it. Nations are watching, not because they suddenly care about the cold, but because the ice is melting. And with every melting glacier, new truths are being uncovered. Truths that could change the balance of global power. Truths that could change the balance of global power. For years, Greenland stood quiet, peaceful, separated from the chaos of the world. But that's no longer the case. Climate change has opened the gates. New shipping routes are being exposed. Rare minerals that once lay hidden are now as accessible. And suddenly, this silent island has become the center of a global tug-of-war. But what exactly is everyone fighting for? It's not just about the land. It's about position. Greenland sits in the Arctic, a location so strategic, so central, that any nation with a presence there can see, reach, and influence parts of the world that were once out of grasp. Imagine standing on a rooftop, above everyone else. You can see all directions clearly. You can hear conversations others can't. You know what's coming before it even arrives. That's what Greenland is to the military and political powers of the world. A rooftop in the north. And when you're up there, you don't just watch, you control. That's why world powers are now offering aid, diplomacy, investment, and even friendship. Because Greenland is no longer just land. It's leverage. There's more. Greenland is rich in rare earth elements. These are not just rocks buried in the ground. These are the very materials that power our future. Electric vehicles, smartphones, satellites, wind turbines, the same technologies we depend on, dream about, and build empires with, all need what Greenland has. So while the world may be talking about clean energy and digital revolutions, the real conversation is happening in whispers, behind closed doors, in maps that circle Greenland with red ink. It's interesting, isn't it, that the more a place is ignored, the more it's preserved. And the moment it becomes noticed, the world tries to take pieces of it. And that's exactly what's happening. But Greenland, it's not empty. It's not waiting to be claimed. It's already home to people, communities, families, cultures. People who don't just live there, they belong there. They've lived in harmony with the land. They've respected its silence. And now, as the world begins to speak louder around them, they're asking for something simple. Let them be heard too. Because Greenland's strategic importance isn't just about its location or its resources. It's also about its people, the protectors of the North, the voices that were once quiet but are now learning to speak up. Maybe that's the part we forget. That strategy without compassion is just ambition, and presence without purpose is just power. Greenland is teaching us something powerful, that a place doesn't need skyscrapers or traffic or social media to matter. It just needs to be rooted in something deeper than politics or economics. To remind us that sometimes the world's most valuable places are the ones we almost overlooked. And as we watch the world shift, as nations move their pieces like a game of chess, Greenland stands strong, not because it wants to win, but because it wants to be understood. It's not asking for attention. It's asking for respect. Because sometimes the most powerful thing in the world is not a weapon, a throne, or a plan, but a place that knows exactly who it is. There are moments when the world doesn't need a loud voice to shake it. Sometimes it's a slow shift, a quiet change that tells us something massive is happening. That's how climate change works. It doesn't always come with warning signs. It doesn't always shout, but it transforms everything. Quietly, relentlessly, until one day we look around and nothing is the same. Take Greenland. Years ago, it was just seen as a frozen land, far away from everything, covered in thick sheets of ice, untouched and still, like time had forgotten it. But what if I told you that the world is now racing toward that frozen land, not for its beauty, not for its stillness, but because the very thing that once kept it hidden is melting away? Climate change is doing more than raising temperatures. It's revealing opportunities. It's exposing places the world never considered important until now. And suddenly, Greenland matters. Because beneath that melting ice are minerals, resources, new trade routes, a possibility to gain what the world is desperately searching for: power, profit, and position. Things that sound good on paper, but come at a cost. And that cost is change. We're watching in real time as the Earth rewrites its own map. Places that were once unreachable are now exposed. Territories once dismissed are now being claimed. And all because the ice is giving way to something else: access. But what caused this access? What melted the walls that protected Greenland for so long? We did. Through our industries, our fuel, our habits, our choices, we've warmed the planet enough to shift the course of nations. And the consequences are more than just rising sea levels. The consequences are political, economic, strategic. What used to be a warning from scientists is now a race between superpowers. The melting isn't just water, it's a door. And behind that door are things the world is willing to fight for. It's strange, isn't it? That something so destructive can also be seen as an opportunity. That the loss of glaciers is met with the rise of ambition. That what should bring us together in fear is pulling us apart in competition. But there's something deeper going on, because the more the ice melts, the more we realize this isn't just about Greenland. It's about how we respond to the changes we caused. Do we rush in to take what we can, or do we pause and think about the price of our progress? Because while governments see minerals, native communities see memories. While some see melting ice as market access, others see their homes disappearing, their hunting grounds, their identity, their way of life. Climate change may have opened Greenland to the world, but it also exposed something in us, our values, our priorities, what we truly care about when no one's watching. We've entered a moment where the Earth is asking a question: what will you do with the damage you caused? Will you keep taking, or will you finally start healing? That's what climate change has done. It's pulled back the curtain. And now there's no more pretending. We see it, we feel it, we live in it. And maybe the real catalyst here isn't just the melting ice. Maybe it's the awakening. Because we are now forced to decide what kind of world we're building. One where power is gained through urgency and exploitation, or one where we slow down long enough to protect what matters. Greenland didn't ask for this spotlight. The Earth didn't ask to be warmed. But now that it's happening, maybe we can use this moment not to conquer, but to consider. Because in the end, climate change won't just define our environment, it will define our humanity. And maybe the greatest shift we need isn't just in the atmosphere, maybe it's in us. There's a kind of battle that doesn't look like war. No explosions, no armies marching, no flags waving on front lines. Just quiet strategies, secret visits, smiles exchanged in meetings, and handshakes that mean more than they say. That's the kind of battle happening over Greenland right now. Two powerful forces, America and Europe, are pulling at opposite ends. Not with weapons, but with influence. One side offers investment. The other offers history. One promises freedom and new beginnings. The other promises familiarity and connection. And in between them stands Greenland, silent, ancient, and watching. It's a strange thing to witness how the world's most powerful nations can be so focused on a place most people have never even seen. But that's what happens when something becomes valuable. Everyone wants a piece, even if they never cared before. The United States sees Greenland as a key to the Arctic, a key to new trade routes, a key to a future where presence equals power. They've reopened their consulate there. They've sent their officials. They've made offers and opened doors. And every gesture, every conversation, every gift is a move on a very quiet chessboard. Because it's not just about friendship. It's about footholds. Europe, especially Denmark, sees things differently. To them, Greenland isn't just strategic. It's family. It's been a part of the Kingdom of Denmark for generations. A place tied to their story, their structure, their map. And so they don't want to lose it. But this tug of war isn't loud. It's subtle. Like two people trying to convince the same friend to choose them without looking like they're competing. They offer funding, projects, attention. They speak about partnership and growth. But underneath it all lies the truth. Influence is power. And Greenland is the prize. But here's the thing no one seems to say out loud. Greenlanders is not an object to be won. It's not a blank page waiting for someone else to write the story. It already has a story, a people, a culture, a voice. They're not waiting to be saved. They're waiting to be respected. Because while America and Europe debate strategy, Greenlanders are asking questions no one's answered. What about our land? Our resources, our way of life? Who protects us not because we're useful, but because we matter? There's something heavy about watching two powerful players act like they know what's best without asking the one who's most affected. This is more than a tug of influence. This is a test of intention. Does the world want to build with Greenland or just build on top of it? Because real influence isn't about control. Decontrol, it's about trust. It's not about showing up when something becomes important. It's about staying present even when no one's watching. And maybe that's what this moment is really revealing. Not just who has the most power, but who will use it with the most heart. Greenland doesn't need rescuing. It needs room. Room to decide. Room to breathe. Room to grow on its own terms. And yes, it will choose who to walk with. But that choice should be based on respect, not pressure, on partnership, not possession. It's easy to talk about diplomacy. It's harder to practice dignity. Because dignity means letting go of the desire to win and choosing instead to listen. What happens next won't be decided in meetings or headlines. It will be decided in quiet conversations, in how Greenland is treated when the cameras are off, in how much space they're given to become not what the world wants, but who they truly are. And maybe that's what we're all being reminded of, that the greatest kind of power is the one that doesn't pull, but supports, that doesn't fight for control, but fights for freedom, that doesn't just try to get ahead, but tries to lift others with it. So as the United States and Europe continue their tug of influence, maybe it's time we ask not who will win, but who will care enough to let Greenland win for itself. There's something sacred about belonging. It's not just about land or language. It's not just about borders drawn on a map. Belonging is deeper. It's the feeling of being home in your own story. And for the people of Greenland, that story has always been written in silence. A life shaped by nature, not noise. They didn't ask to be noticed. They didn't ask to be part of some global conversation. But now, suddenly, all eyes are on them. And they're being asked to choose, to pick a side, to open their doors, to change, to adjust, to participate in a future that's being designed around them, but not always with them. And that's where the struggle begins. Because how do you stay true to yourself when the world wants to redefine you? This is Greenland's quiet war, not a war of weapons, but of identity, between tradition and transition, between staying grounded and being pulled forward. There is a pressure that comes when people start seeing your value not for who you are, but for what you can give. And that's what Greenland is feeling now. The world is interested, but the interest comes with a cost. The ice is melting. The land is warming. The people are dying, the cost of not being paid enough. The cost of seeing people becoming something more than what the minerals are calling, the ports, the passageways, the promises, they're all being dangled in front of Greenland like shiny gifts. But none of it comes free, because with every investment comes expectation, with every offer comes influence, and with every decision, a little bit of identity risks being lost. And yet they endured with dignity, with grace, with strength. Now, in the blink of an eye, they've become valuable in a way they never asked for. And the question echoing in their hearts is this: do we finally step forward, or do we stay who we've always been? It's not an easy choice. They have dreams too, hopes for better hospitals, better education, better opportunities for their children. They want a voice in a world that often speaks over them. And yes, they want independence. But not the kind that costs them their culture. Because what is the point of gaining the world if you lose your soul? They've seen what happens when bigger powers step in. Promises made, agendas hidden. They've seen lands stripped and people silenced, and they are right to be cautious. They are right to be protective. Because when you've been ignored for so long, being seen suddenly can feel just as overwhelming as being invisible. This isn't just about progress, it's about purpose. It's about finding a path that doesn't erase their past, a path where they can grow but not be swallowed, where they can rise but not be reshaped. And that's the heart of the identity struggle, not wanting to be trapped in the past, but also not wanting to become someone else's version of the future. There are elders who still speak in stories passed down through generations, who remember times before there were decisions like these to make. And they're young people, curious, educated, determined, who want more for their land, who want to be part of the world without losing what makes them different. This is the tension that lives in Greenland now, not in anger, but in deep reflection, in quiet courage, in the difficult conversations being had around kitchen tables, in schools, in hearts. What does independence look like? What kind of partnership is worth pursuing? What do they want to say yes to? And more importantly, what must they say no to in order to remain themselves? Because freedom is not just about breaking away, it's about standing firm, knowing who you are before the world tells you who you should be. And sometimes the bravest thing a nation can do is pause. Listen to its own voice. Remember its own story and make choices not out of fear or flattery, but out of conviction. Greenland doesn't want to be caught in a tug of war. It wants to be understood. It wants to be included, but not consumed. The world may see land and ice and opportunity, but Greenland sees something else. It sees ancestors buried beneath that ice. It sees childhoods shaped by harsh winters and brighter summers. It sees a people who have waited long enough to be recognized, not as a prize, but as a people with pride. This identity struggle is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's a reminder that rushing forward without reflection is just another form of surrender, that growth without grounding is just drifting, and Greenland refuses to drift. So while the world debates, while nations pull, while offers come and go, Greenland is listening to something more steady than politics. It's listening to its heartbeat, a leadership that doesn't shout but stands, that doesn't compete but contemplates, that doesn't surrender identity for opportunity, but finds a way to protect both. Because in the end, Greenland's real power isn't in its resources or its location, it's in its people. And no matter who knocks on their door, only they get to decide who they'll become. Sometimes we get so focused on the moment, on what's right in front of us, that we forget to take a step back. We forget to breathe, to zoom out, to see what's really happening, not just around us, but through us. Because what's happening in Greenland isn't just about Greenland, it's about us. About the world we're building, about the choices we're making, about the way power moves, and how people either rise with it or get swept aside by it. Yes, there are countries involved, there are flags and governments and leaders making decisions behind polished doors. But beyond the politics, beyond the profits, beyond the pressure, there's something deeper unfolding. It's the story of how humanity reacts when the Earth changes. Climate change, competition, identity, these are not isolated topics. They are connected. One leads into the other. The planet warms, and suddenly forgotten places become valuable. Superpowers take notice. Indigenous voices rise. And all of us are forced to look in the mirror. Because this isn't just Greenland's moment. It's a reflection of how we handle all moments where opportunity and responsibility collide. We talk about advancement, we talk about strategy, we talk about progress, like it's a prize to be claimed. But who decides what progress looks like, and who gets left behind when it arrives? This is what the bigger picture asks us to consider. That behind every headline is a home. Behind every policy is a person. Behind every negotiation table is a story we don't see. We forget that when the ice melts in Greenland, it affects the oceans everywhere. That when new shipping lanes open, they don't just bring goods, they bring greed. That when one land becomes the center of attention, others become invisible. We're connected in ways we rarely acknowledge. We share this earth, we breathe the same air. And yet, we act like we're in competition over who gets more, who gets there first, who gets to lead. But real leadership looks different. It listens more than it speaks. It understands that just because something becomes accessible doesn't mean it's available for exploitation. Greenland isn't a blank space to fill. It's not a shortcut to global dominance. It's not just the next big thing. It's a test. A test of how we respond to power. A test of how deeply we respect sovereignty. Not just in maps, but in spirit. Because if the only way we know how to move forward is to take more, then maybe we're not moving forward at all. The bigger picture invites us to ask better questions. Not how can we win, but what are we willing to lose in order to, not how do we get ahead, but who are we leaving behind while we do? And not what's next for Greenland, but what kind of world are we creating through how we treat it? This isn't about choosing sides, it's about choosing standards. The standard of fairness, of long-term vision, of listening before acting, of healing before claiming. Because every time the world turns its eyes to a place like Greenland, we're given a rare opportunity to prove that we've grown, to prove that we've learned from the past, that colonization, domination, and greed do not have to be repeated, that there's a better way, a way that values dignity over dominance, consent over conquest, purpose over pride. And that better way doesn't start with policies. It starts with people. It starts with us, with how we talk about these things, with how we choose compassion over convenience, with how we teach the next generation that progress isn't just about building roads or mining riches, but about preserving the soul of a people. When we see the bigger picture, we understand that this moment is not just geopolitical, it's generational. Because how we treat Greenland today will echo far beyond the Arctic. It will shape how future nations, future communities, future voices are treated when their moment comes. It will reveal whether we've grown enough to lead without overpowering. And it will define whether we see this world as a collection of territories to divide or as a family we are meant to protect. So yes, Greenland matters, but so does how we see it, how we speak about it, how we show up for it. Because the world doesn't need more competition. It needs more clarity, more conscience, more care. That's the bigger picture. And maybe the real breakthrough isn't in the melting ice, or the shifting maps, or the growing interest. Maybe the real breakthrough is in finally seeing that we're all part of the same story. And what we do in one chapter defines how the rest unfolds. So as America and Europe look northward with hungry eyes, let us remember, this isn't just a story about politics. It's about people, about preservation, about choosing peace over power, legacy over land, and dignity over dominance. Because at the end of the day, the most powerful nations aren't the ones who take the most, but the ones who care the most. And in the heart of the Arctic, Greenland is waiting, not to be conquered, but to be understood.